Do you have constitutional questions? Get constitutional answers. We'll be answering your constitutional questions live, so get ready to call in now. Are you a prosecutor, law enforcement officer, or local government employee? Want to make sure you are executing the laws in a constitutional manner? Are you a city council member, township board member, or state legislator? Want to ensure the laws you pass are constitutional? Perhaps you're a citizen who wants to know the proper limits on government and the protections for your God-given liberties. Regardless of your role, call me, Constitutional Attorney Catherine Henry, with your constitutional questions during our live call-in show now at the phone number listed on the screen. And remember, together we can restore freedom.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hello, everyone. I'm Constitutional Attorney Catherine Henry. Welcome to this week's episode of Restore Freedom Weekly. We have some different things we're going to talk about today, but I want to encourage those of you who have questions of a legal or constitutional nature to go ahead and call in. You can always ask the questions in the YouTube chat, but sometimes it gets hard to parse out what the real question is in there. Sometimes it's easier to understand it if it's a conversation that we can have. But I ask that you don't wait to the very end because I normally don't like to do a 2-hour show, but in the last few months, 6 months or so, it seems like all the shows have been about 2 hours. Some have even gone longer than that. I would like to eat lunch before then today. So anyway, go ahead and call in or touch base in the YouTube chat with what your questions are. And that way we can get the ball rolling on giving you the information that you're looking for. Just touching base here. I want to make sure you guys can hear me because it seems like everything's working well on my end, but there's always the one technological thing that's not working right. So I did notice initially that there had been a lot more chat on the YouTube side than what was showing up on the screen. So if I'm lucky, that'll be the one technological snafu that we have today. Just making sure I did all the things. Let's see. Okay. I think I did all the things. We'll see. So, all right. All right, so hello, Jake Curvitt, Terry, Danny's Thoughts, apparently my Stream Elements bot. I have no idea how to get that thing, what it's even doing. Let's just put it this way. I have an idea how it got connected. I have no idea how to disconnect it or what it's even doing in our chat. Hello to Amy and Blue Line Transparency and Chris, and it looked like it just jumped. I had some other names in there. Hello to all of you joining us today, though, and nobody is specifically saying that you can hear me, but nobody's saying you can't hear me, and since you're seeing my lips moving, I'm assuming you would tell me if you could not hear me well today. So what I want to do until we get a question, I'm going to go ahead and hit that button there. In the live chat, you'll see a link. It's restorefreedomkh.com/category/survey signups. So for those of you who are going to be listening to the podcast version of this later and don't have a screen to look at, go to restorefreedomkh.com/category/survey signups. And the reason why, thank you to those of you who are giving me the thumbs up on sound being all good. The reason why I wanted to give you that link is Well, quite frankly, I had forgotten that I wanted to create a form to get some input from you guys and a little survey. And when I do get it, though, and then of course in the last little bit of time I had before once the light bulb went off, right? I'm reading court cases, I'm reading updates from the Florida Supreme Court, I'm reading about justices coming off the bench, going on the bench, all kinds of different important things that I thought, oh, you guys might want to know about this stuff. And so I'm going through tons of that stuff right before the show. And then it hit me, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes before the show. I'm like, oh, oh yeah, I was going to do this survey. And then by then I want to make it, I'm a perfectionist, so I want to make it perfect. And yeah, so I couldn't get it all finalized and perfect before we went live today. So I'm just going to finalize it after the show, probably after lunch after the show. But when I do get it up, I want you guys to take a look at that. So whether you're watching live now or whether you are listening later on a podcast or something like that, please make sure that you check out that survey. There will be a direct, a direct link to it as well, which I'll share out on the social media platforms. I'll put it in the YouTube, used to be called YouTube Community. Now that's changed and it's moved and it's just called Posts now. But anyway, I'll be putting it on all the places. Our Facebook page, LinkedIn, Twitter, Telegram, YouTube, Google Business, of course, my own website. It'll show up on the updates tab. What I'm going to do though, and since I'm plastering it all out there, but I don't have the direct link because it's not done yet. I don't have the direct link. That link that I gave you earlier will give you a little bit more pinpointed place to find it. It'll be the most recent post in that link that I just shared in the live chat with the category survey signups. So basically what I want to do is, and I'm trying to keep an eye on the chat to make sure we don't have any questions coming in as I'm rambling on here. But first of all, let me back up and say, before I talk about that survey, we did already have technological issues this week in more ways than one, and it was with our newsletter. So if you subscribe to the newsletter, I'm just going to say I'm sorry because I sent it out last week on the 2nd, and I left the screen up because it's whatever. I do it as what do you call that? It's a plugin through WordPress. And, I painstakingly go through and make sure all the things look right and whatever. It's pulling posts that I've done throughout the week. And then sometimes I add other stuff that's just for the newsletter. And we've been having issues with it being, the size was too big for a few months, a couple months anyway. And so my dad was helping me figure out how to just do some things. And finally I turned off a setting that I had recently turned on, or changed a setting basically. It's not what I wanted, but it makes the file sizes a lot smaller for the emails, like drastically smaller. So anyway, so had it all, like I've been working really hard on making sure this is a really good, impactful newsletter for you guys. And so I sent it out last Monday, because I'm sending it out every week this year. Since getting cancer, obviously, I'd slowed things down and I wasn't doing as many, and I was trying to just be more realistic with my energy, time, and resources. But anyway, this year I've been doing it faithfully every single week. It either goes out on a Sunday or a Monday. And it appeared like it went out. And then when I went back and looked to start the newsletter for yesterday, it said it was a draft. And I went, oh, crap. Why is it a draft? And I went and looked, and sure enough, I didn't even receive it. But it can take hours once it queues. So I guess I just didn't notice that I didn't receive it after I queued it up to send it out. I have no idea why it stalled out and never sent out. So I had done a little bit of tweaking to that newsletter. So initially I was thinking, well, I'll just do one newsletter and I'll backdate the post so you see everything in the one newsletter for 2 weeks span of time. And then, but when I looked at the newsletter, I had done some tweaking and changing and things like that. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to send out 2. I'll send out this one and then I'll explain in the next one why I'm sending out the next one, why I'm sending two in one day. And so sent them, and I checked on how it looked, and it had the posts for last week's, the week before last posts were all in there, and it looked good. So it looked the same as what it was supposed to look, sending on March 2nd. And then the one for today, or yesterday, excuse me, would have had all of last week's posts. And it looked right, and it looked normal, and everything was fine. And then I just opened my email today, and I had received both of them. It was a busy day yesterday, so I didn't have a chance to go back and really look. I just saw that they were there. So I was like, hey, at least they're there. And I looked at them, and they're both messed up. The ones that were supposed to be the March 2nd newsletter that was supposed to have all the posts from that week prior had none of those posts. It was the posts from this last week. And then the one from this last week had some weird section, they weren't exactly the same newsletter. There was something weird about them, which is weird, because there shouldn't have been anything missing. I had actually just added stuff to the last week's one, which is why I was just doing, trying to go ahead and send that and then just do this week's one. Anyway, nothing looked right. So the technology didn't work to send it the first time, and then it messed it up this time. So there's still some good stuff in there, but let me just say, I'm really sorry that you missed. And if you missed the posts I did, not this last week, but the week before, just go back and check out whatever platform you look at my posts for social media, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Telegram, Google Business, which is now on Google Maps, but or my website, whatever it is, just go back and check that area, that your main social media platform. Take a look and see, because I've had some good stuff in there, and I wanted to share all of that with you again. So anyway, I apologize for that. Obviously I can't control the tech. I don't, I do my absolute best. I'm an attorney, not a computer science person. And certainly my bachelor's has nothing to do with computer science or science at all. I mean, political science, but that's a whole nother thing completely. So I do my best, and I've actually been working on the background of the website for you guys as well, trying to clean stuff up, the old posts, so that when you search, I just want to remind you guys of that search feature that's on the website. So there's a search bar up on the top right, and you type in procedural due process or substantive due process or whatever it is, First Amendment. And if everything's working correctly in the background, then it pulls up videos that match that description. It pulls up documents. It pulls up posts that I've had. And in theory, it's going to be your one-stop shop for information that you need whenever you have a topic that you're trying to tackle. And I'm working very hard at cleaning stuff up in the background, because there's been sometimes, like this video today, if I had done it, let's say it was 6 months ago, it was making as many as 4 or 5 posts in WordPress for this one video, and they're all not quite right when they get to WordPress. I have to do something to them. I have no idea how we ended up with so many. Anyway, I've been working in the background to try to fix all that and get them in the right category so they pull up when you search for things. Make sure they're named things correctly. There were a lot of, links that I was afraid might get broken at some point. So I went back and made my own links, short links through the website. I'm cleaning all that up. Anyway, trying to make it a one-stop shop for you guys with really good ways to find information on the topics that you need when you need it. So just bear with me as I continue to do that. So I'm working on the background of that. But it's creating a more usable environment for you guys. Of course, I realize that this whole time I've been blabbering, you guys haven't been calling in because I haven't had the phone number up on the screen, so that would be helpful. So, um, okay. And sorry about that as I was talking. You guys, looks like you might have been having some questions. Okay, so Goofy Jester 12345 asked, "Are you familiar with 18 USC 1001 and what are my thoughts?" You know, it's possible I don't have things memorized. What I can do is if it's quick enough, USC 1001. By the way, here's what I'm going to do. Okay, so I was with a group of highly intelligent women last Monday and Tuesday. As we all converged on Tallahassee, which is really far away, a lot farther away than when I lived anywhere in Michigan and had to drive to Lansing. But anyway, so we went to Tallahassee and we were testifying on a medical freedom bill in general, and it was very watered down. And then as we were in the car, things were getting changed, and there were amendments that I noticed happening and being filed as we're driving, and I'm going, holy crap, these amendments. And so I'm like reading through the documents and trying to compare one to the other from my phone. And it's a good thing I generally don't get car sick. Sometimes I do. But the changes were largely not good. There were two that were okay, good. But then there were two that were really bad. And luckily the sponsor of the bill listened to our concerns about those two changes, and is at least attempting to address one of them in a floor amendment on the floor of the Senate. But anyway, okay. So sorry, I'm getting off track here. So, very intelligent women, okay, that I was meeting with, and I have met with, I think, only two. One of them is my good friend Maya Hahn from Michigan, that lives down here now. She has Health Freedom Unmuzzled is her online handle, if you will. She's worked with Children's Health Defense and Michigan for Vaccine Choice and a variety of other health freedom types of organizations. So a lot of you might know who she is. If you don't, check her out. She was actually a freedom fighting tool that I had posted about, I think, in January this year. Anyway, so she and one other woman were people that I have met before. Other than that, I had never met, I don't think, any of these other women. All fabulous, all super smart. What was frustrating to me, and I think there were like, I want to say 12 of us at the most. So at any rate, so the, what was frustrating to me is that some of them, when it comes to, okay, so they had really great minds, right? So as we're dealing with these changes that are brand new, so we have the bill itself, and then there had been two prior committees. And when you have a bill, you have, well, at least in Florida, but it happens this way in a lot of state legislatures, you have typically three committees that it'll go to. And so the two committees, two or three, now I'm losing my mind. I think it's three committees. So in each committee, that's where the work is really done to change the language, to add things, to take things out of the bill, et cetera, through amendments. Sometimes it's the bill sponsor, the one that you think of as writing the bill, who has their own amendments. Sometimes it is somebody else that's introducing an amendment. And so sometimes the amendments are considered friendly and sometimes they're not considered friendly. So anyway, so when it makes it out of a committee and it has been changed substantially, there is typically, it can be known as committee version 1, committee version 2, or something like that, if the bill has, really been changed. And so this particular bill that we were testifying on was, I believe it's Senate Bill 1756. There had been an introduction, and then there had been C1. That's what I printed late at night, Sunday night, before I got all packed up and stuff for our travels on Monday. And then by Monday, there had been two amendments introduced. One that was relatively short, totally crappy, and supposedly introduced by a Republican. I mean, it was introduced by a Republican, but air quotes around that, because definitely not a conservative. And the other was introduced by the bill sponsor himself, Yarborough. And that's the one that had a lot of changes. It was a strike all amendment. So it was literally take the bill as we've known it to this point, get rid of it, and replace it with this new version. And it's 13 pages. And at first their website wasn't working, so you couldn't just click a PDF that just had that bill. You had to go to the pre-meeting packet for the committee. And that packet, when I initially opened it on the way up there, was 1,080 pages or something like that. Then it went to 1,180 some pages. By the time we got there, it was 1,283 pages. And so the page number where I was finding it in this packet, what kept changing. And it was towards the bottom is tab 19, if you know, they call them tabs, of like 25. And so anyway, it was usually around page 1,100 or so where I was finding it. So anyway, again, 1,100 page document, looking on my phone. Yeah, kind of hard. So anyway, all of that to say, so we're struggling with figuring out what we want to say on the bill, and then the bill changed. And then we're struggling with trying to figure out what exactly is happening in the new version, the strike all amendment, and what we need to say on it. And keeping in mind, we may only get, you know, who knows, 2 minutes to speak. 3 minutes is the most that I've ever seen. 30 seconds. I actually was prohibited from speaking on the actual bill. I was one of only 2 people that were prohibited from speaking on the bill who actually wanted to speak, which is quite alarming. And also based on the viewpoint, it's viewpoint discrimination, because she said she knew basically what we wanted to say. And so she didn't need to hear from us. That was the chair of the Rules Committee in the Senate. But anyway, so there's just all that going on, right? And so when you have this change and it's a last minute change, you're trying to figure out what's going on. Why is there this change? And so all that to say, there were good questions that these women were coming up with, and practical implications, and how will this play out? And what does this mean? And so I don't ever ask a legislator, first of all, what certain language means, because I couldn't care less what their opinion is about what it means. Now, granted, I'm an attorney, and a lot of other people reading it or even speaking on these bills are not necessarily attorneys, and so they're looking for someone who they consider to be more of the expert on this. The legislators are not experts. Even the ones who are attorneys, I wouldn't trust them as far as I could throw them. They might be nice, they might be respectable, they might be super intelligent. I don't believe their word for anything about what something means. I'm going to read it and look at that for myself and use my own judgment on that. So at any rate, there were a lot of good questions coming up from these ladies, and then a lot of them were using, the vast majority of them were using, you know, like a Google search. Okay, so ChatGPT or Grok or whatever all the things are, right? The AI and the searches and things like that. And when they were using those to get a question answered about, well, what, like one of the, I don't even remember what they all were. But something like the definition of immunized, I think it was immunized, that came up in one of the bills. And so they were worried that it only meant, in that context, that it would only mean people that had received an immunization, a vaccination, and not necessarily people who were immunized from actually having, say, you know, the chickenpox virus. And so then their body has the natural immunities that way. And so I pointed out that unless it's defined in the law, then you have to look at what the actual definition outside of the law is. And we can't just makes some assumptions. And so one of these extremely intelligent women, I mean, they were all using these like Grok and Chat GPT and whatever. And I promise you there's a reason why I'm talking about this in the context of looking up 18 USC 1001. So they were talking about, well, let's look at what it says. And I don't remember which woman it was or which AI platform it was. But one of them was like, oh, yeah, it's defined in this law, and it only talks about it's defining it as though you've received the vaccinations. And I said, well, what statute does it specifically say? And so whatever it had told them, I wrote it down, and then I looked it up on my phone. I actually went to the state website for our statutes, and I read it, and I read the whole damn thing, and I'm like, it does not provide definitions. First of all, I could tell by looking at it without even reading it, it's not a definitions section. But second of all, I looked at all the parts of this, and it's not defining it, it's talking about it, and you can make some assumptions maybe. But the AI platforms were giving false information, which I know is not probably new to you guys. You guys are probably well aware that AI platforms take liberties with what the truth actually is. But the reason why I say that is you need to be very careful and go to source documents. So while ChatGPT or whatever, Grok or I don't know what all of them are, right? I don't use them. But I have tried to use them a few times, and I've always double checked every aspect that I planned to rely on. So I wouldn't just tell it to, want it to give me an answer. I would ask it to give me an answer and then give me the citation. And then I would go and directly look at that citation myself. So when somebody just asked me my opinion on 18 USC section 1001, all that long story to tell you guys that I typed it into the search bar of, I use Brave browser. So where you type in your URL, I just type in there because it doubles as a search. And it gives me, it gives me the little summary, excuse me. And then the first hit here is law.cornell.edu, and then it gives the US code. And I tell you all of that because I want to make sure you guys are looking at source documents. Whenever there's a conversation talking about any kind of law or administrative rule or court case or something, do not take the short way out. Don't take the easy way out. Don't hit that Staples easy button and look for what AI's summary is and then just stick with that. Don't look at another website who's just giving a summary of something. Again, I'm pretty sure there might have been one woman that wasn't doing it there, but there were, let's just say 12 women, and every single woman at some point was referencing something that was generated by AI or was a summary put together by some other organization about the bill, about whatever. And so they thought they were looking at legit sources, and I trust this organization, or just read the stuff yourself. That's all I'm saying. If you're looking for a particular statute, use your AI or use your organizations that do summaries for you. Use those as a starting point and then verify everything. Don't be one of those keyboard warriors or, anybody else out there who goes based on, a tiny bit of knowledge, and then you're out there spewing it around like you think you know everything, or that you're so confident in your knowledge of what you have. Read the actual laws yourself. Read the bill, if it's a bill. Read the court case yourself. Whatever it is, read it yourself and go to the actual source. Don't trust anything else. So, for example, I told you I've been cleaning up stuff on the website. I have been doing posts that relate to things that are in state constitutions, for example. And of course, state constitutions, they're legit, actual, current state constitution links through their government's websites will change periodically. And so I try to keep up on that. And there were a few that I had to go searching all over again because the link I had was no longer valid, or I realized it was a 2022 PDF, but now we're at 2026, right? So and their state constitution may have changed. And I looked several of them up, and they had in fact changed, but I had an old link to an old PDF. So I went back and I've been changing those, and I've been trying to update those for you guys. So when you go to my website and you go, oh, the Kansas State Constitution, you can click on that, and it takes you to the current Kansas State Constitution. So just make sure though, because it was really easy for me to find a PDF or find a link for state constitutions, for example, that I was like, oh, that looks like a legit source, but it's not the source. I'm not even necessarily going to trust the state bar on something unless it looks like that state, like in Florida, court rules, you have to basically get from the state bar, which is asinine, but the courts, their link on their website to the court rules leads you to something that's hosted by the state bar's website. So at any rate, all that to say, make sure you're looking at the source itself. So let's just see. It looks, I haven't opened, you know what, I'm just going to open it. Okay, it's not super long, but I won't be able to read the whole thing. But it says 18 U.S.C. section 1001, except as otherwise provided in this section, in any matter within the jurisdiction of the executive, legislative, or judicial branch of government, anyone, whoever willfully falsifies, conceals, or covers up by any trick, scheme, or device a material fact. Number 2, makes any materially false, fictitious, or fraudulent statement or representation, or makes or uses any false writing or document knowing the same to contain any materially false, fictitious, or fraudulent statement or entry shall be fined under this title, imprisoned to not more than 5 years. If the offense involves international domestic terrorism, imprisoned not more than 8 years, or both. Subsection A does not apply to a party to a judicial proceeding or to that party's counsel for statements, representations, etc., to a judge in that proceeding. With respect to any matter within the jurisdiction of the legislative branch, subsection A shall only apply to administrative matters or any investigation or review conducted pursuant to the authority of any committee. Okay, so I'm not sure. I feel like I've read this before, but I don't have a current context. So let me, hold on. And then Amy, if I lose track of your, I'm going to try to make notes of these things. Hold on a second. Amy, you were asking about, okay, Florida House Bill 945. Okay, so hopefully I remember that. And hello to our fabulous Lori. Okay, so, oh, and John, I didn't see John had jumped into the chat. I'm just looking for, okay. Okay, so let me see here. Oh, dang it. I hate how it jumps there. I don't know how you got that weird fish emoji or whatever that is, but that looks cool. Okay, so 1001 is the most abuses federal statute along 1983 to date. I'm not sure what you're saying. Most abused federal statute from 1980. What are we talking about? Hello, this is a public service. Thank you for joining us today. We were talking a little bit about finding source documents when you are looking up a bill, court case, statute. Make sure you are not using ChatGPT, Grok, or anything else like that for your final source, but it could be your starting point, and then you are double checking with the actual source documents themselves. And then we had a question about 18 USC section 1001 and what my opinion on it is. First of all, I'm going to say it's got a lot of legalese in there where there's a lot of, it's not very straightforward language, and you really have to think and parse it out, and you know, just different things like that. It's also talking about various, It's supposedly talking about anything in the executive, legislative, or judicial branches of government, but then you have subsection B, which is saying, but it's not really talking about judicial proceedings for the most part. And subsection C is it's not really talking about legislative branch proceedings, except for two tiny exceptions. So it kind of guts itself before it even finishes. So anyway, I don't have an opinion on it because I just don't have a lot of background with it, but I don't think it's very useful. So I don't know if you have a more specific question that you want to follow up on. It would be really nice if, because it doesn't say that it has to be a person that works within the executive, legislative, or judicial branch of government. It just says whoever in any matter within the jurisdiction of the executive, legislative, or judicial branch of government. So if you have any kind of dealing with someone, dealing, in a matter that deals with the executive, legislative, or judicial branch of government, and since the government thinks it can affect every aspect of our lives, that's pretty much everything in your life. You can be in trouble big time, face 5 years in prison for falsifying, concealing, covering up by any trick, scheme, or, making any materially false, fictitious, or fraudulent statements or representations. So anyway, I don't know that it's really super useful the way that it's written, though, because of all the things there. So I'm going to just scroll down and see. Okay. Yes. And oops, shoot. What? It just scrolled on me again. Did it delete stuff? Okay. So yes, hello. Back to you. This is a public service. Okay. Let's see here. And Lori put the reminder of what the format of the questions look like if you're just putting them into the YouTube chat. Hey, I'm not going to say ChatGPT 5.4 Pro is not very smart because I don't know. All I'm going to say is never, ever trust AI to do your final research for you. It could be, think of it as a research assistant. It is going to assist you in getting the ball rolling, and you should damn well double check everything that ever comes out of AI, no matter what. When I had full spectrum law firm, I had paralegals, I've had legal secretaries, I've had high school, college interns, you name it. Anytime, at one point I had a paralegal with a Juris Doctorate degree. The only difference between myself and herself was that she didn't pass the bar and I did. That was it. We had the same education, roughly around the same time. So I think we might have graduated like 1 year apart or something like that. So anyway, but she was my paralegal and I loved her. Her name is Lauren. And even though she was very smart and clearly had a very high IQ, not just because she was, had earned a Juris Doctorate, but because of knowing her and working with her for a long time. She was very intelligent. It was still on me to double check every pleading that she ever put together. And, whatever, a secretary, legal assistant, whatever, anybody, no matter what their role in my organization was, I needed to double check everything to make sure that it was sound. I never had anybody put together any documents where I wasn't 100% looking through the things, okay? Factually, legally, whatever. Okay, so did you end up getting a free Westlaw account? No, I don't think I did. Foshin, if you're still on the show here, you'll have to tell me more about that because I don't remember if it's something that we talked about. Because the way you're wording that is it sounds like something that we've talked about. I had a free Westlaw account as a law school student. And then I think for 1 year after I graduated, they extended that free thing. But if it's not free now, I don't have it. So, but you're telling me there's a free version. So, okay. And I hate that it does this. Okay. Okay. Anybody who falsifies crime allegations definitely should be held accountable. In fact, dare I say, I haven't thought this through. This is just something that popped in my head. But if someone intentionally falsifies criminal allegations against somebody else, like sometimes you're confused, sometimes you ID somebody as the getaway driver and you're mistaken, you ID them from a lineup and you pick the wrong person or whatever, right? Mistakes happen, things like that. But if you intentionally lie about somebody else committing a crime, my thought is you should be liable for whatever sentence that person would have been. So if you're accusing them of a crime where they would have had to pay $10,000 and serve 2 years in prison, then you should have to pay $10,000 and serve two years in prison. So, I mean, granted, it is hard to prove intention because unless somebody was really stupid and they recorded their intentions outwardly in something, it'd be hard to prove. But yes, that's my instinct, is to say that. Goofy Chester, you said the point is all lie and abuse their own federal code. Yes, they all lie and abuse their own federal code. Yes. And that's why if we're going to have any statutes on the books that supposedly seem to deal with cleaning that kind of garbage up, then they can't be gutted. The statutes have to have teeth, and they have to actually apply across the board. They can't start off by saying subsection A, oh, this applies to anything with executive, legislative, or judicial branch jurisdiction, and then subparagraph or subpart B says, oh, except for not really most judicial proceedings, and subparagraph C, except for, not really much with the legislative branch. I mean, come on. So this does go to the heart of what my survey is for you guys, though. But before I get to that, let me look here. Oops, shoot. Gosh, this does not. Lori says, judges and attorneys have been caught relying on AI without checking it, finding cases that AI made up. Arguments sounded good, but when the case doesn't exist. And that's exactly right. When I was putting together my petition for writ of certiorari in the United States Supreme Court, I was having to come at it from a different angle than all the steps prior, because in all the steps prior, it was state court. So when we got to the point where the Court of Appeals of Florida had denied my petition for writ of certiorari and did so without putting it in writing as to why, and that denied the Florida State Supreme Court jurisdiction, I had to jump essentially to the United States Supreme Court. That was the only court remaining that had jurisdiction. And so I just had to come at it from a different angle. And I was using ChatGPT, and I even tried Grok a little bit. But I was using ChatGPT to, I was asking, I was narrowing down what my questions would be. And for those of you who have been around the block a time or two with me, you might recall me saying that my petition for writ of certiorari, which is on the website, if you guys want to check it out, restorefreedomkh.com/OB case, you'll be able to find all the legal documents from the case there. But anyway, so I was having to narrow down what the main questions, right? You're asking a legal question or a constitutional question of the court. That's what you're posing to them as a question. And so most people ask one, maybe two questions. I narrowed it down to 4, which was a significant cut for me because I started off with 65, I think it was 65 potential questions or topics I needed to turn into questions. And so I was as I was narrowing it down and got to maybe like 8 or 9 questions, I was asking ChatGPT the question that I had come up with the wording, and I wanted to know what it was saying. And it gave me, oh my gosh, it gave me some amazing cases and things that were like, yes, that's exactly, I mean, it makes it so clear that the courts down here screwed up, and I was so excited about it. And so I wanted to put those in my outline, and I wanted to start getting those in my pleadings. But what did I do? Every single case, even if I have heard of the case, because some of them I have heard of, every single case, statute, whatever it was quoting, I went and searched in the actual database of cases or statutes or whatever. So Florida state statutes, I went to the Florida legislature's website. The cases, I went to, actually the cases sent me on a wild goose chase, because sorry guys, my nose is running. I went to Google Scholar first, and then I went to, it's not the best search engine, but it's free, and it's quicker than getting all logged into the other stuff, because you don't have to get logged into Google Scholar. And so I went to, I don't know, I think it's called Fast Case, which is the one that's available to me free through the Michigan State Bar. So then I was looking for cases there, and some of the cases point blank did not exist, just did not exist. The AI was telling me existed. Some of them existed, but what they said the case stood for is not at all what the case stood for. So that wasted a ton of my time, because then I'm reading a 30-page case to find out that it does not talk about what it said was being talked about. Certainly doesn't make the point that they're claiming was being made. So sometimes, but like I said, sometimes the case didn't even exist. Sometimes it existed and it just, wasn't saying what they said it was saying. Regardless, I checked every single thing. And then at one point I was like, you know what, this is more harm than good. It's causing me more time, more stress, more research. I'm just done. I'm done using it. So I stopped using AI altogether, and I just wrote everything on my own. I'm not even sure it ever gave me one solid lead of a case or a statute that I didn't already know about. And there were dozens that it was giving me initially. So anyway, yes, Lori's just pointing out that they have been caught relying on AI. Okay, we did. It's quick. Okay. Okay, Foshin, you're gonna have to, I don't know. Do you have a link? Send me a link if you have a link. Because if it's, I'm assuming something that's available to anybody in the general public, you guys should sign up for a free Westlaw account too, if it's available to you. Because there's a lot of good information on there. Now, maybe it's a very limited version of Westlaw, but they have all kinds of things. LexisNexis has their own, Westlaw has their own. They're totally separate entities, like Microsoft and Apple. And they, but at any rate, it's beyond just court cases and statutes that they have. Okay. And it keeps scrolling. Dang it. Let me try to go back up. Oh my gosh, there's a lot. Okay. Ooh, yes. Like lying in court 33 times to get an unlawful injunction against harassment. Let me guess. Was it an Arizona proceeding that you're talking about there? Oh, absolutely there shouldn't be qualified immunity. Absolutely, there should not be qualified immunity. In fact, okay, I'm going to try to get through your questions. So yes, apply that to police too. Survey. Yes, it would be fun. Us versus them 2026. Yes. Okay, I'm just trying to make sure. Gemini Brave, ChatGPT. Yeah, you think Grok is weak. That's weird. So my husband has used it for a few things and found Grok way better than ChatGPT. The little bit that I used it, it was actually way better. ChatGPT was literally telling me that it couldn't access outside sources other than what it had itself. And so I was like, well, wait a minute. Don't you have the entire, if Well, anyway, I just won't go there. Um, so, um, but yes, Gemini, I'm a Google girl, so you would think with, I mean, our phone service is Google Fi. Obviously I use a lot of the Gmail products, Google surveys, Google whatever, Google everything, Google videos, their new version of making little videos out there. I've used that a little bit so far. Anyway, there's a lot of good Google products out there. So you'd think I'd use Gemini more. I've only just recently started to use it. Okay. So I don't see things that say question, but okay, let me see. Goofy Jester is saying, find the case or case law PDF and upload the PDF into Chat GPT. Only way to use it. Well, see, that's the thing. I was asking it to tell me if there are cases out there that stand for a certain point, or what, ask a question and expect it to give me U.S. Supreme Court case precedent that talks about that particular point, that kind of thing. And it claimed to do so. I don't have the time to me, just me personally, there would be no benefit in me uploading a PDF of a court case into Chat GPT, because I don't trust it to read and parse out what the case is saying any more than what I can read it and understand it. So anyway, there's that. Okay. All right. Westlaw AI. Did not know they had one, but it doesn't surprise me. It's not for the peasants. Okay. You're gonna have to help me out here, Foshin. Okay. Any thoughts on House Bill 945? Yes, let me just make sure that is the last, because I don't want to have to. Pro is the only way to go. Let me just double check. Oh, come on. Sorry, guys. It keeps, yeah. What? $200 a month? Yeah, I'm not paying $200 a month for anything. Car payment and mortgage. That's the only things I'll pay $200 a month for. Let's see. Okay, so I got to get to 1252. Okay, so I'm going to, at least I got towards the bottom. DJ Plast, we will make sure that I address your question. If I don't come back to it, I'm going to try to do that. But first, I don't have any specific knowledge about Florida House Bill 945. 945. It could be one that I have researched. I just don't have any of them memorized this year. It's now in State Affairs Committee. I can tell you that much. It proposes the creation of a statewide counterintelligence and counterterrorism unit within the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, FDLE, effectively establishing a state-level intelligence agency with broad surveillance powers. Oh, sounds great. The unit would be tasked with detecting, identifying, neutralizing, and exploiting any adversary intelligence entities, which the bill defines to include foreign governments, corporations, non-governmental organizations, insurgent groups, or any person whose demonstrated actions, views, or opinions are a threat to the interests of Florida or of the United States. The bill authorizes the unit to conduct patterns of life analysis, gather actionable intelligence, and carry out direct action missions, including arrests, using all counterintelligence and counterterrorism tradecraft. Oh, lovely. The unit would be staffed by individuals with military, federal, or law enforcement intelligence experience. It has passed the House Budget Committee and Judiciary Committee, and is now before the State Affairs Committee in the Florida House of Representatives. It has drawn bipartisan opposition and significant civil liberties concerns. No shit. Oh my gosh. With critics comparing it to the FBI's COINTELPRO program of the 1960s and warning of potential government overreach, political persecution, and chilling effects on free speech. The Senate bill companion SB 1712 has not yet advanced and likely will not. I would wonder without doing all this separate research right now on the fly while we have the show going on, I wonder what committees the Senate bill companion was assigned to, because something of this nature, I would assume, would go through the Rules Committee. And with that being said, Rules Committee I testified at the last Rules Committee hearing of the year. So it's done. There's no way for it to move forward if that's the case. Oh my gosh, the bill's sponsor is a Republican. He has acknowledged First Amendment concerns and stated an amendment is being developed to address them, though it was not part of the recent committee debates. How not? The proposed unit would involve high-tech surveillance tools, including data extractions from cell phones via Celebrite, an Israeli-owned company with a controversial history, including sales to the Maduro regime in Venezuela. And the bill is set to take effect July 1st, 2026, if passed into law. Wow, that's special, isn't it? So to answer you, I think it was Amy that was asking about this. Let's be clear that I did not read the actual bill. This is just the AI summary, just because it's on the fly and I'm trying to do this quickly. But if it was something I was, looking into with more time, clearly, I would be looking at the bill itself. I would be looking at the most current version of the bill. I would be looking at the history, the amendments. I would be listening to or attending committee hearings on this. This is absolutely insane. And for those of you who like freedom at all, I would strongly suggest that you take a look at this bill. And if it is, in fact, if the AI summary that I just read to you is accurate, I would make sure that you are reaching out to every member of the Florida House and the Florida State Senate, whether you live here or not. Reach out to them and urge them to vote no on this bill. And make sure, and I say Senate as well, because even though the Senate version hasn't gone anywhere yet, if the House bill ends up passing through the House as a whole, because it's passed through 2 committees so far and on its way to the 3rd, if it makes it to the House floor and it gets voted on, that bill then gets sent over to the Senate for the Senate to vote on it on the floor, so they could adopt the House version of this bill, which would be bad because we don't want any version of this bill at all. We don't need any more surveillance, especially, you gotta be kidding me. Detecting, identifying, neutralizing, and exploiting. Let's just go with neutralizing. Like, what the hell does that mean? Because I know what it normally means. Any adversary intelligence entities, which is anyone who is, I have a corporations, non-governmental organizations, insurgent groups, and exactly how is that defined? I don't know if that's actually defined in law or in this bill, because that could just be a group of, that could be Moms for Liberty or Florida Freedom Keepers or, a group like that. Any person who's demonstrated actions, views, or opinions, my opinions are a threat to the interests of Florida or of the United States. And really, what do they mean by that? And whose opinion counts as to whether my opinion is a threat to Florida? And how can an opinion be a threat? How could an opinion ever be a threat? in a constitutional republic where we clearly have the First Amendment protections to freedom of speech, freedom of the press, the ability to petition your government for a redress of grievances. How? Wow. Okay, so I don't know. There's like so many topics here. I can't even. Yeah, I'm just gonna leave it at that. I was gonna write myself a note. Okay, so I want to go back a few minutes. Wow, there's been a lot of comments just in the last few minutes. Okay, so I think it was 52. How does one get a case overturned? What is the case that introduced qualified immunity? So I don't know what case first introduced qualified immunity. I don't know if it came up through state decisions, through federal decisions. I feel like I did know at one point, and I might have even recently read it. But quite frankly, I don't care how it originated at this point. My it's hard to say. So how do you get a case overturned? We need to figure out where qualified immunity, where the current case precedent resides. So what has the United States Supreme Court said about it? And then in your own jurisdiction, what has your state Supreme Court said about it? What has in your jurisdiction, what has the Federal Court of Appeals said about it? And what has your state Court of Appeals said about it? Because oftentimes there is a, the highest court, state Supreme Court, U.S. Supreme Court, has a little bit of something on the topic, but you need to look at what is controlling precedent in your jurisdiction, which then often includes at least some aspects of the Court of Appeals decisions. And so you'd want to really look at that topic from both the state and national levels, figure out what cases are controlling on there and what they say about it. And then, of course, you'd have to have in order to overturn any decision, you have to have a court case that overturns it, unless you have legislation that overturns it. I mean, you could do it that way. But if you have a court case, if you're trying to go through, so let me be clear, in order to make myself a note. Okay, so there's two ways. You can overturn court precedent by creating new court precedent or by having legislation that overturns that precedent. So for example, and that happens a lot. Both of them happen a lot. So sometimes you have a situation where the courts have interpreted a law, interpreted whatever. They're going through and they've been doing it a certain way. And then the legislature says, whoa, that is not what we wrote. That is not what we intended. The courts have gone far off tilt with this. Let's reel it back in. And so the legislature says, this, we are specifically overturning the interpretations, the erroneous interpretations of these, this particular case or this line of cases or whatever, because in this topic, this area of law, we mean the law to say this. And then so they provide that clarification or whatever. With a court case, obviously, you see it all the time where you have, just look at the how Roe v. Wade was overturned by the, it starts with a D, doesn't it? Why is that not coming to me? The name of the case, I cannot think of that. You guys know what I'm talking about. The one that came out, I think it was 4 years ago now. The case that overturned Roe v. Wade. But look at how they do it. It's really just finding that prior precedent is not grounded in the Constitution. And we all know, anybody listening to this discussion right now knows that qualified immunity is not constitutional. So eventually, our court cases need to get caught up to that point. But anyway, so, and this all this is another topic that comes back to the survey that I'm going to have you guys do, but let me just make sure that there's nothing. Okay, you emailed the man about this yesterday. It's more, we're not allowed to talk ill of Israel anymore. Oh, that's not good. I personally don't have an opinion on anything with Israel. I don't. There are too many things for me to be well informed on that I am not. I'm just going to say I'm not well informed. Therefore, I don't have an opinion on what's happening in Israel or from Israel or about Israel. But what I can tell you is, regardless of the topic, we all are entitled to our own opinions. And certainly in our constitutional republic, unless you are inciting direct violence, you have the right to speak your mind, to share those thoughts with others, to become, a member of media, whether it's paid or not, to petition your government for a redress of grievances. You can be, I was the one person speaking out on issues, and a variety of issues throughout my career or throughout my life. It's not just as an attorney, as a citizen, as a resident of a community. I've been the sole person to vote against something, as when I was serving on the township board in Georgetown Township, for example, a community of 50,000 people. We would have stuff that we'd be voting on. And I'm like, this is not constitutional. It might sound good, but it's not constitutional. I don't care what your reasons are for this. It's not constitutional. My vote is no. And I would explain it in detail as to why. Obviously, that shouldn't surprise you because I am very detail oriented. But for the sake of this conversation, I'll just say, I would tell them why it's not constitutional and tell them why they need to be voting no. And sometimes, yet, I would still be the only one voting no and everybody's voting yes. And it was deeply disturbing to me that the rest of them just threw the Constitution off to the wayside because whatever reason. But I was not afraid to be the only one to speak up on an issue. And that was at a time where we were being threatened that the Michigan State Police would come and try to arrest us if we, as government officials, tried to host in-person meetings for the public. If we tried to conduct government business open to the public, we were being threatened that the Michigan State Police would come and arrest us. So I started having militia members and good friends of mine that are armed attend the meetings because I wanted to make sure that I wasn't going to have some legalized thug violently arrest me again. So anyway, so we shouldn't have, it definitely would be speech chilling to have that's the least of the concerns, right? But anyway, okay. Keep the emails going though. This is a public service, is saying that if I understand what he was saying, right? If I'm reading the context, because there's obviously a lot of conversations that are going back and forth in the chat. But I believe he was talking about House Bill 945 here in Florida. And he's saying that he emailed the sponsor of the bill. Make sure you guys not only email the sponsor of the bill, which I think actually would be beneficial because it's supposedly a Republican. So lay out exactly what your concerns are with this bill. Bullet point it. Keep it simple. And make sure that you and your neighbor and your friend and your coworker and the guy you sit next to at church are all emailing your concerns about this bill. Okay. So, oh, lovely. I'm already a headliner on this list. Well, I already know I'm on the FBI watch list. So, when you speak up for freedom and try to teach people to think for themselves, how dare you? Okay. All right. Making sure there's no more questions for me. I think I answered all of them. Great. Catherine is going to Guantanamo Bay on July 1st. Everybody, I hope not. I hope not. Okay. John says, how about the Supreme Court ruling that police no longer need a warrant to enter a home based off a community care call? And we've had some conversations about this. At this exact moment, my mind is a little bit fuzzy on that because I don't think that's what was actually said. So I'd have to look at what the court case said on that. But again, keep in mind, too, that our law enforcement agencies don't often even follow case precedent. So there we go. Okay. Shoot, it skipped a bunch. Sorry, guys. Holy cow. Yes, it skipped a bunch. Dang it. Okay. Is law common sense or is common sense law? Yeah, you would be, Foshin. You and I both. I mean, you probably even more than me. I don't know. Because you're out there doing it yourself, and I'm the one out there telling other people how to tell the government to shove it. So I think we're both in the same boat. Okay. So I don't know what case you guys are both talking about. Pearson v. Ray, 386 U.S. 547, 1967. So I'm not sure what is that about, because you both are talking about that, and I thought somebody was talking about a brand new case. Okay. All right. Yeah, you guys are talking about different cases, because the last I thought we were talking about was a case where it was somebody was talking about a recent ruling from the Supreme Court about basically a 911 call for help type of situation. So you guys must be talking about something else. The Dobbs case. Thank you, Lori. I knew it started with a D. Man. Okay. Government has no duty to protect. Yeah, I don't know that I feel like, anyway. It's sickening. So many people think speech shouldn't be allowed when you don't agree with it. It is. I'm going to just say that out loud. It wasn't a question for me, but Blue Line Transparency says it's sickening how many people think speech shouldn't be allowed when you don't agree with it. And that's, yes, exactly. And it is disturbing. It is really disturbing that people think just because you don't agree with them that your voice shouldn't be heard, has no value, should be stifled, that you should be arrested or punished or whatever the case is. I mean, that's why when I was on the Georgetown Township Board, again, a community of 50,000 or so people, we had, I don't remember which parade it was. If it was the Memorial Day parade, I feel like it was a parade in May. So I'm going to go with the Memorial Day parade. The original group that had been basically doing the legwork on it had been, because it was 2021, they were stepping away from it and they weren't whatever. So a different organization, I think it was Ottawa Impact, had taken on the work to get that together. And there was something about, I don't know, some leftist came and he was bitching and moaning about the viewpoints that were in this and how dare we allow things like Michigan for Vaccine Choice and some of these other organizations to be in the parade and spewing their propaganda and all that nonsense. And my response to him was that you had people that were there that were wanting to advocate for gay rights. And of course, in the last 5 years, 6 years, or whatever it's been, that argument has drastically changed because it no longer is what it was, right? Just talking about having the conversation of equal rights to marital protections, for people of the same sex versus people of the opposite sex, is one conversation. But then now it's this whole other grooming and pedophile conversation that is, it's a whole nother ball game, right? It's like it's completely two different worlds. And at any rate, back then, when it wasn't talking about anything about the grooming stuff that's happening, but the just the concept of having that opposing viewpoint, that viewpoint that I personally don't agree with. But I was explaining to this person, but the whole point is that all viewpoints that aren't out there causing for, a call to violence or something like that, but all viewpoints are, they have the same rights to be heard. Whether I agree with them or not is irrelevant. But that's my job as a government official, to make sure that there is equal protection of the law, that there is essentially an equal platform for free speech, and that we're not doing viewpoint discrimination, and, media, your ability to petition your government for redress of grievances, whatever it is, that those are equally open venues for people that have concerns of varying topics. Anyway. So, Goofy Jester, you apparently do not know. Thanks for calling me sweetheart. But yes, I've been on the FBI watch list since April 30th of 2020. I know exactly the date I got placed on that list. And it actually came out through court, not my own court case, but the Whitmer kidnapping plot court case, when 2 defendants were charged in Michigan. 2 of the defendants that were charged. It came out through discovery there. So yes, I have been on the list since 2020. I didn't find that out until, I believe it was October of 2022. I think it was October 2022 when I found it out. Yeah. So, anyway, okay. Yes, I don't see questions, just trying to scroll through. Yes, sorry, am I way behind? It's only 5 minutes. You called in? You called in. I don't see any calls. Catherine, I called in about police in my home during it. Oh, I know you did. Yes, Jay Kervitz talking about, she called in the last show. And we talked about it. Yes, we talked about your situation, but I don't remember anyway, I don't remember any specific recent U.S. Supreme Court precedent talking specifically about that. I might have talked about it last time. I'm just saying right now I don't remember that. But yes, I remember us talking about that. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. Okay. Sorry, I'm just looking to see. You guys have a lot of chats back and forth. Jumped. Okay. All right. The date the media alleged they stormed the Capitol. Yes. Yes. Yeah. We've talked about that before, but anyway. Okay, so I feel like you guys were saying I was far behind on comments, and I don't see any other questions. I don't know if because you know my little thing, like the little window, I don't have any options. It's like literally this big, and I can't change that. I've tried. It doesn't allow me to, so I can't see the entirety there. So hopefully I didn't miss any questions. So we had a lot of conversation. It's been an hour and 20 minutes of a show so far, and we've had a lot of questions and topics. So with that being said, let me go ahead and let you guys know. So in this survey, what I want to do. So, okay, so let me back up and say in the I want to say it was last week's or 2 weeks ago, our last show, I was urging you guys to be very specific, very intentional about your freedom fighting efforts, to make sure that you don't overwhelm yourself, to make sure that you can be very effective at what you do, and try to hone in on where you think you can be the most effective. So for myself, I know, for example, when it comes to where, I'm not going to focus on what's happening in federal legislation because that is just a huge mess. And I don't feel like I have much of a voice in Congress. So I used to have friends in Congress and now they're not in Congress. So I don't have any kind of connection there. I don't feel like the people that I have representing me have any real interest in hearing what I have to say. And it's an uphill battle that is so steep. I have other fights that I can attend to that are equally as important. So for me, it's going to be state and local is what I'm going to focus on. As far as, what topics, I just personally, I love the Constitution, the whole damn thing. And so when I see new court cases that are coming from the Florida Supreme Court, I look through the synopsis of every single one and try to figure out what the legal topics are, and then I try to narrow down. I do the same thing with the Michigan cases that are coming out. So I get a newsletter that talks about the it's good. It's not a slanted thing. It's literally just saying factually what the courts have said and what topics they're talking about. That's all it's there for attorneys, and it's actually one of the few things that's not slanted by the Michigan State Bar. But it's talking about what Court of Appeals and Supreme Court cases in Michigan are, what those cases are looking like. And then Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals decisions that are, so when you have a case that maybe started at the Eastern District of Michigan Federal District Court and it got appealed to the Court of Appeals and it's going to the Sixth Circuit, it's talking about those cases. So at any rate, so I look at all of those, and especially the criminal ones where I just find myself really and just today I was looking at a few more emails that had come in the last few days, and I'm like, oh yeah, there's stuff about qualified immunity, there's stuff about there's sentencings and ineffective assistance of counsel, or all kinds of things, delays in pretrial delays, or so your right to a speedy trial, in other words, all kinds of topics, right? You have search and seizure. It's endless, the amount of criminal topics. And I'm very interested, since I have been wrongly prosecuted myself, and because I've served as a public defender in two different states, I really want to stay on top of that stuff. But it's kind of like an endless realm. And then I also find myself obviously super interested in things such as eminent domain, or when they do tax forfeiture or foreclosure proceedings, or, when there's any kind of, zoning cases, or things of that nature, right? So for obvious reasons. So property rights are a big deal to me. Any kind of medical freedom cases. And you see parents that are being stripped of their rights to parent their own children because they refuse to get certain medical treatments that they believe are harmful in one way or the other. So, obviously Second Amendment issues. If I see a case, we've talked with people in our chat here about cases happening in Michigan about Second Amendment issues. That's extremely important to me as well. Any First Amendment issues as well. The ability for free speech and freedom of the press and petitioning your government. I've talked about a lot of issues. Governmental accountability, governmental accessibility. These are just some of the topics that are just so important. And how can any of us really be that effective if we're trying to keep tabs on all of it? I mean, even if I just focused on Florida state legislature and that was it, there are thousands of bills introduced every year. Every year. How could I possibly keep up on all of that? I can't. So I'm going to put together this survey of things where I'm narrowing down based on where I'm feeling more called to work. And this survey is really, what do you think would be most helpful to you and to those around you? So when you go to recommend this platform, right? The shows and my website and the documents and all that stuff that I have available to people. When you, and at this point, I'm just going to change the screen there. But if you are, what topics do you think would be most helpful for you in your own fight to preserve the little bit of freedoms that you have left, let alone in your own charge to lead your community to fight for freedom? What do you think would be most helpful for me to focus on? That's what the survey is going to be about. I'm going to try to limit this the best I can, just kind of how I had to try to limit my topics for the United States Supreme Court. I want to limit what I'm working on, what I'm focusing on, so that, even if I don't focus completely on medical freedom stuff and keeping up on every court case, every bill, every action that's done, I might still go and testify on a bill if my friend Maya calls me up and says, hey, I'm going to testify in such and such bill, and I look it up and I go, oh yeah, I have things I would say about that bill, and I'll go with her. But that doesn't mean I'm going to spend my efforts keeping up on every single medical freedom thing necessarily, right? So I want you guys to tell me what would be the most beneficial for you. That's what that survey that I don't have out yet, but that's what the survey link, I don't know if it's still there. Let me see if it's still, yep. Okay. So I just shared it again in the chat because I shared it over an hour ago. RestoreFreedomKH.com/category/survey signups. So that is where it will be on my website. I don't have the direct link to it because I haven't finished it and published it yet, but that's where it will be. And then I will blast it out as well, like I said, to all the social media platforms that I regularly post to. And it'll be in the next newsletter, provided the newsletter doesn't malfunction like it did these last 2 weeks. So anyway, I want you guys to tell me what is going to be the most helpful, that you think would be the most helpful, what you see as most helpful for your friends and neighbors and your, the people that are patriots in your life, that you think, how can I best help you and help them? That's what it's going to be all about. Okay. So, oh, and there was a question that came in. You were for the moment when you had to scroll back up. Okay. Goofy Jester question. Are you familiar with 5 USC 552 and my thoughts? I am not. But I would like you to bring that up at the next show, because for me to search for it at this point, an hour and a half in, and start a whole new topic, I don't want to do that right now. But what I don't think I really emphasize this enough, but of the choices that I will have, I got to figure out how to word this so I can figure out really what the focus will be. But in this survey of the different areas that I would like to focus on, obviously I'm heavily drawn to cases and to bills, new legislation that talks about governmental accessibility, governmental accountability, the ability for people to speak freely, the ability to hold government officials accountable, ways that we can get rid of qualified immunity, ways that we can, are government officials actually prosecuted under 18 USC 1001, for example, those kinds of things. Okay. I mean, certainly they should have been prosecuted a lot of them should have been prosecuted under 18 USC section 241. But anyway, that's a whole other thing. So I want you guys to take a look at, from that perspective, what we can do. So and Ron Wayne, I appreciate your comments and your appreciation of me. So thank you so much. Especially if you're someone who listens all the time but doesn't pipe into the comments. I'd love to see a little bit more every now and then, even just to say, hey, I'm here listening. Thanks for the conversation today, or whatever. It does help to have that feedback from you guys. Okay, so wish they would bring it back, but we know that's never going to happen. Parents need to step up. Okay. And I don't know what that context was, but anyway, I'm going to see if I missed any other. The Freedom of Information Act, that's something I'm thinking about doing. Is one day, I always get my great ideas for legislation or constitutional amendments when I'm shampooing my hair. And I was shampooing my hair last week after I got back from Tallahassee, and I thought, I need to help create a bill that is a kind of like a one-stop shop. So it looks like no matter what state you're in, you could try to introduce this language as a bill for Freedom of Information Act to make it the most, give it the best teeth, have it have a lot of, just important aspects. They have to have timelines. For example, here in Florida, there's no timelines. Here in Florida, there's no ramifications if they don't give you your information. Just make it very user-friendly. Make it people-friendly. And also put in there, as part of the Freedom of Information Act, what kinds of, which is called different things in different states, obviously, what kinds of information each governmental entity, including your very own local city or township government, needs to put on their website and keep it there without people having to ask for it. And perhaps after there is a Freedom of Information Act request made, then what do you guys think about making sure that whatever that information looks like, that answer is posted right to that city's website, and everyone can then access that information? Because if one person has a question about that information, other people might have the same question. And the whole point is we shouldn't be charging people money to get information. We shouldn't make them jump through hoops. It should be right there on the government's website for the vast majority of things. So anyway, that's okay. So, oops, dang it. I saw somebody saying it was loading. Okay. Wanda, I'm not sure if it's just you or not. Oh, John Q. Public. How does this notion of public safety within a 10th Amendment of states' rights policing power allowed to circumvent the positive guarantees of the Second Amendment? First of all, we need to, that is a great question. You need to please copy and paste. John Q. Public, if you are hearing me right now, I want you to copy that question verbatim and ask it at the very beginning of our next show, because that is a whole topic we need to talk about. First of all, there's no states' rights. The Constitution does not talk about states' rights. The 10th Amendment specifically reserves any powers. Let's just go back to that 10th Amendment. I'm going to read it verbatim because we need to do that. It's not very long. It's one sentence only. The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited to it by the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. So it's not talking about rights. It's talking about powers. And it's not saying that it's reserved just to the states. It's not, it's talked about the States' Rights Amendment. It's not. It's saying to the states or to the people. So again, if there is not something that is prohibited by the U.S. Constitution, that if let's say there's a power to do something, any governmental entity, in order to exercise that power, has to have been expressly granted that power in the Constitution, and also not prohibited to exercise that power by the Constitution. So let's say the United States Constitution is silent on that particular topic, whatever it is. It doesn't say the states or the US government cannot do it. It just is silent on it. Then you still have to have the state constitution that expressly grants that power to that state to do whatever it is, XYZ. And that state constitution also provides its own set of rights and protections for we the people. And so if there's a protection within that state constitution and that supposed power infringes upon one of those protections, then the rights for the people, the protections for the people, should supersede any supposed power granted to the governmental entity in that case. So it's a whole conversation. We need to go down that road. But what you're saying is 100% true. What you're getting at with your question is 100% true, that any supposed governmental grant of power, whether it's to the state or federal or local government, if there is a right expressly protected in the Constitution, then clearly that is the easiest argument to say, but that power does not override that express freedom. Now, Ninth Amendment freedoms get a little bit more challenging because they are the unenumerated rights, and some people can't fathom the fact that we have rights not given to us by government, and it's a whole thing. But anyway, excellent question. Who keeps texting me? Because my phone is normally off at this hour. Well, I have had a lot of people. So just stop. I'm just going to turn this off because I can't think. Okay, so okay, no more sounds. So I want you to ask that because it is a very important question that there's more information on. And all right, I see no more. I was seeing no more. Oh, yes, hold on. I don't know what that was a comment. I just see there's a comment. No, there are not cameras in your bathroom. I don't know what conversation that was a part of. Okay. This is a public service. Question, do you watch the 10th Amendment Center? I've never heard of the 10th Amendment Center, so no, I don't watch it. I really don't watch anything because I'm all about source documents and things like that. So any free time I have is spent reading court cases, reading statutes, that kind of thing. But if there's something in particular, a specific video or something like that you want me to see, by all means, check it out. And I do know that there's a few videos that some of you have sent me about things. Individualist, who's not in the chat today, and some other people, you've sent me stuff, and I still have it on my to-do list. I guarantee you. I just haven't gotten there. Obviously, things pop up, like my friend Maya saying, hey, there's this bill we need to testify on in Tallahassee. Come with me. And I'm like, crap, yes, let me figure out how to drop everything and get up there. So, okay. John Q. Public, you ask great questions frequently. Sometimes your questions are infuriating, but for the most part, you ask really great questions. So yes, please ask it. All right, let's see. But ask next week. Only because I would like to eat lunch, people. It is 1:40. I just want to be able to eat some lunch. Okay, so question. 10th should read, or to the people thereof. The 10th is flawed purposefully. Okay, I don't know what you're getting at, but I am all ears next week on that, because I think the 10th Amendment is a huge topic that we really do need to jump into. Okay. Like the musician Michael Bolton? I feel like I'm missing something here. Okay. Looks like I got it all. Catherine for U.S. Attorney. All right. Where do I have my stuff here? Sorry, guys. Okay. There it is. As always, I can't do this without donations. I need you guys to help keep this going. even if it's a one-time donation, even if it's a $5 donation, that's all that you're able to muster, it would be greatly appreciated, because there are expenses for me getting this going. Even that newsletter plugin that doesn't always work, there is a cost to that. It is the, trust me, I looked for anything free. And there's a cost to getting, some of this software and stuff, my video editing software and things like that. So all of it, oh, sorry, I did say next week. I guess I'm still in the mindset of that it's every week. It's not every week. Next time. So the second Tuesday, no, it is the second Tuesday. The fourth Tuesday of the month. So that'd be the 24th, my aunt's birthday. March 24th at 12:02 p.m. John Q. Public, I want you to post that exact wording of that question, okay? Because I think that's going to be a showstopper. I think that's going to be at least an hour of conversation and different follow-up questions from people in the chat. And I you guys, if it's a quick question, I'll answer it undoubtedly right away. But anything that needs the time and the attention, I mean, I gave a very brief overview answer. I did. I addressed it very briefly already. But anything that needs the time needs the time. I mean, it just quite frankly needs the time. So anyway, oh, thank you. How do I do this? Is there oh, I can't. Oh, that sucks. Okay. Apparently I thought I could like comments, so I can't. I was just gonna like your comment, Potion. No, that was not an irritating question. That was a good question, John Q. Public. It was a good question. Very good question. Okay, so anyway, I forget what I was saying here. Shoot. I was saying something that was useful, I think. So reminder to check today, if not today, then by sometime tomorrow, but hopefully I'll get it out today, that survey to have you guys help me hone in on the most important topics. I got to figure out how I can word the survey such that it's like the top 3 topics or something like that. I don't know. Because some topics are obviously much more consuming time and energy and effort wise than others. So make sure that you guys please fill that out. And to any patriots that you know that would benefit from this stuff, send them the link to the survey too, so they can fill it out. And please do so within a week once I send it out, because I don't know how long I want to keep it live, because I want to take action steps on it, right? So anyway, so there's that. I feel like I was saying something else to you guys. I really don't know. Anyway, anything that you guys can do to donate would be greatly appreciated. Yes, Ron is reminding us, please make sure to hit that like button, hit the share button. If you are new to the channel, hit the subscribe button, and then make sure to turn the notifications on so you get notifications of when I go live. Yes, I am in the next couple weeks, hopefully we'll be getting even more resources up. I forget who it was that emailed me in the last show. We talked about somebody was asking questions on getting a complaint started for, I think it was for a Freedom of Information Act lawsuit that they were putting together. And I wanted to give them a copy of a complaint where that was one of the counts that I alleged against my local city government back in the day, 10 years ago or so. And anyway, so even though I don't have that particular document on my website right now, that person emailed me as I told them to in the show, and I was able to get them that document. And it is a document I do plan on having available on the website, just too many irons in the fire right now. So anyway, so yes, please join us 2 weeks from now. If you haven't signed up for our newsletter, like I said, that is the best way to see all the posts and videos from the last week, except for this last 2 weeks. We just, it is what it is. But usually it is the best way to see the posts and videos from the last week. And it's all in one spot. Otherwise, do pick your favorite platform. Telegram I like is nice and clean and tight and all that. And so you can go to our social media on our website, there's a page that lists all of our social media. And you can click and find us on all the podcasting platforms. I've recently updated that because there were, some changes that were happening amongst the platforms themselves. I have new links there, as well as, places where we post videos, places where we post comments or like written posts, things like that, links. So please make sure to check that out, and make sure to tell a friend. Tell a friend this week. My challenge to you is tell one friend this week of restorefreedomkh.com or youtube.com/restorefreedom, and get them to check out the resources that we have. So I think that I got all of the questions answered. So thanks so much for keeping it a lively chat as always, guys. My poor starving 12-year-old is waiting for me to get off, so I'm going to sign off today, and I'll look forward to seeing all of you in your responses in the next few days on that survey. And with that being said, I wish you all a wonderful week, and stay safe out there, guys.
Our work to restore freedom would not be possible without support from people just like you. From the various software and hardware needed to the legal research materials, every dollar you can donate helps. Make sure to like and share this video too. And remember to follow and subscribe and click that notification button. Together we can restore freedom.